Patrick O'Connor, the Socialist Equality Party's candidate for the Melbourne by-election, addressed a rally in the city on July the 1st to defend Julian Assange. The protest was organised by the Wikileaks Australian Citizens Alliance. Assange is currently seeking political asylum in Ecuador. He fears that if extradited to Sweden, Washington will seek to bring him to the US to put him on trial on espionage charges. O'Connor spoke after others addressed the crowd, including Wikileaks founding member Daniel Matthews and Greens federal MP Adam Bandt.
I'm proud to be here with you, representing the Socialist Equality Party. We stand here today because we understand that the vendetta that is being waged against Julian Assange, together with the attempt to destroy Wikileaks, the attempt to physically and mentally break down Bradley Manning, all this is an attack on all of our democratic rights. The defence of Julian Assange is an international question, but we know that we here have our own specific responsibility, a responsibility to take up a struggle against the Labor government of Prime Minister Julia Gillard. Julian Assange would simply not be in the position that he is right now. He would not be holed up in an Ecuadorian embassy in London if the Labor government had not played the role that it has done over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
One might have expected an Australian government to immediately respond to the extraordinary campaign that greeted the publication of the first US diplomatic cables in late 2010. In the last 2 years, the Australian government has colluded with the American government every step of the way. The full extent of the collaboration of the Australian government, ASIO, federal police, other intelligence agencies, the full extent of this collaboration remains to be exposed. The persecution of Julian Assange and Wikileaks is part of a full-scale global assault on basic democratic and political rights. This has been driven by the accelerating crisis of the global capitalist system. The ruling class internationally clearly recognises that the deteriorating conditions of life for the overwhelming majority of people must lead and will lead to social unrest and political upheaval. Amid escalating social inequality, it is simply impossible for national governments to advance their agenda through democratic means. We see internationally a growing turn towards authoritarian and dictatorial forms of rule. One could give many examples. I raised at the beginning of my remarks that the struggle to defend Julian Assange is a struggle against the Labor government. Now, I need to say a few things in response to the position of Adam Bandt and the Greens, who disagree with the position. We have heard earlier today that it is possible to, on the one hand, defend Julian Assange, while at the same time propping up and supporting the Labor government in Parliament. This is a fundamentally contradictory and hypocritical position. After 2010, the Greens embraced the Labor government, gave it its commitment to maintain its rule in Parliament, and nothing that has happened in the last 2 years that the Labor government has done in the Julian Assange case or on any other issue has given the Greens any pause for thought to withdraw from this agreement. There is also the issue of the changes to Australia's extradition laws last February. Julian Assange's mother, Christine Assange, has quite importantly raised this issue on a number of occasions. It didn't receive much press at the time, but Australia's extradition laws now no longer have any restriction against extraditing you to a foreign country if you have been accused of committing political offences. Now, this is one reason why Julian Assange has applied for asylum in Ecuador. Ecuador specifically prohibits extraditing people to the United States or anywhere else if they're charged with political offences. This prohibition used to exist in Australia, but not anymore. The Labor government removed this from the law last February, and when it went through the Parliament, the Greens did not oppose this. They said nothing, and it went through unopposed. It's necessary to strike out on a new road. The only way to tackle the fundamental drive to tear up democratic rights internationally is to tackle the problem at its root cause, and that is the profit system itself. And that's why, as part of my by-election campaign for the seat of Melbourne, I'm raising quite centrally the need for the building of a new political party which represents the interests of the working class, fights for the socialist reorganisation of society, the abolition of the profit system, and the creation of genuine democracy in every area of social and economic life. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a real shame what the Australian government's doing in terms of following the correct procedures. They've told us that they're following these procedures and that we should all feel confident that they're doing the best they can. I don't feel like my common sense tells me that that's not correct. I think that they should be doing more to ensure that Julian comes straight home.
it's horrible that our government is doing nothing about this. In fact, they're not doing nothing. They're siding with people in America who are calling for his execution. And I don't think Julian is paranoid, particularly about this, in the sense of it doesn't exist. We have enough examples of that. People being rendered on no evidence for torture because they were sold to the CIA. Knowledge is extremely powerful, and the withholding of knowledge is extremely powerful. So Julian Assange is exposing that misuse of power, and we're at a crossroads. The war on Iraq was absolutely unjust. This has not ever really been exposed, or we live on those lies. And I think because Julian exposes lies, as many in the past have done, he's being persecuted for that. You shoot down the messenger that doesn't uphold the existing order, because people in the existing order have a lot to lose. And it's ironic that The Guardian, The Times are held exempt. They actually publish this information. So it very much is a scapegoating exercise, and it's so obviously a scapegoating exercise, and it's meant to warn people.
The role of the Labor government, well, look, they've shown themselves, we know which masters they serve. The orders come straight from Washington. They've changed the law to make it easy to extradite him. They're going to sell him down the river at the first opportunity. Like on this issue, it's the same with the asylum seekers. It's Adam Band's vote which has kept Gillard in power for the last 2 years. You know, I mean, how can we ignore that? And they refuse to use whatever leverage they have on issues of real substance. I mean, this isn't a minor issue, the Julian Assange issue. And I think it's good the Social Equality Party holds them to account on that.